Students, now we will see the golden age of Indian culture. At the Gupta period is described as the golden age. At the first, I have explained that because of the high level of civilization and culture of this period, because everything was flourished and developed in Guptas. Along with the revival of Hinduism, the power of creativity was unleashed in the fields of education, literature, arts, architecture, science, and at the same time extending this influence beyond India's frontiers. That everything was flourished and developed, and that was just connected the Indians with other countries or the India's frontiers. At the time of education also was given importance. That's why various types of universities were just explained. You students, you have studied in the 6th standard about Nalanda University. It was a mostly flourished and developed university. Even the foreigners also came here to take education. Even we have studied at Yuan Shang, who visited at the time of Harsha to India. He also took education from near about 5 to 6 years in that Nalanda University. Okay, see what happened. All types of subjects education was given in that university, or that type of education was given to the students. Then see, we can just understand, we can just see that literature, science, mathematics, astronomy, astrology and medicine, that kind of variety of education was just given to the students. Two types of teachers were there. First one was Buddhist, another one was Brahmins. Okay, there were many centers of learning in cities like Patliputra, Vallabhi, Ujjain, Ayodhya and Nasik also. Remember one thing. According to the inscriptions, the teachers were learned Brahmins, who were known as Acharyas and Upadhyayas, and sometimes they were also given the title of Bhattas. These teachers were supported by the grant of villages. They means what the students were getting their free educations. They were taking education by the scholarships, and that colleges or universities were just run by the grants offered by the villages of nearby the universities. That villages called the Agraharas, given by the Gupta rulers, and charities given by the generous public. Those who had that much ability to grant, they were just offering that to the education towards the universities. The disciples called Shishyas. Disciples means students. Students are also known as the Shishyas. Had to learn 14 sections of a science. What was that? So 14 sections were there for the science. As per you are studying, near about 3 sections of a science. That is called as Chaturdash Vidya. What is that? That 14th section of science was called as Chaturdash Vidya. Comprising the 4 Vedas were there. You know that 4 Vedas. What is that? Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharva Veda. Then 6 Vedangas, the Puranas, the Mimamsa, Nyaya and Dharma, besides Vyakaran. Vyakaran was known as Ashtadhyayi of Panini. Students, in English also you can find the parts of speech like that. They were also studied in the Vyakaran. That Ashtadhyayi was mentioned by Panini. And the Satsahasri Sanhita of the Mahabharata. They were just learning from all the Vedas and religious books. In the Gupta period, the Jain and Buddhist system of education assumed different dimensions. Both educational system was available there at the time of Guptas. Buddhist monasteries admitted students for 10 years. Buddhist monasteries, those who were given education, that was giving for the 10 years. Learning began with the oral method. Later they shifted to the reading of literary texts. Means whatever teacher was explaining them in orally, that was the first type of education. Afterwards they were started to learn literary text, and the monasteries had libraries also. Important manuscripts were copied and sorted. Important scripts were just copied and distributed for the students. Students from other countries like China and Southeast Asia came to the Buddhist monasteries for education. Those who were interested to take education, they were coming and taking education in that universities. The monasteries were normally maintained by grants from kings and the rich mercantile class. Even they attracted scholars from far and near. Whatever scholarships were granted to the students, that was attracting to the students from far and near. Fahin also spent several years in monastery, as per I mentioned, at Patliputra studying Buddhist religious books. He was interested to get idea about Buddhism. That's why he took education from Buddhist religious books. Higher education was given equal importance during the Gupta age. Not only the basic but primary, but the higher education was also given equal importance. Gupta age, as is evident from a number of universities which existed during this period. The two popular universities were Takshila and Nalanda. The Takshila University was one of the first few centers in the world which offered higher education. You can just see on page number 63 the ruins of Nalanda University after attacking various rulers. That university was, however, established before the Gupta Empire came into existence. It was established before, but at the time of Guptas, it started to flourish or developed. Now we will take an idea about the Nalanda University. It was a most renowned educational institution of ancient India. It was located at Nalanda in Rajgriha in Bihar. A lot of information about the Nalanda University is given in the inscriptions, whatever we found. That extra information or important information is just given in the inscriptions and in the accounts of Yunshang. Means if we wanted to get idea about the Nalanda University, then we must have to study the Yunshang's accounts. Yunshang was a Chinese Buddhist scholar or pilgrim who visited India during the reign of Harshvardhana. The University of Nalanda had imposing buildings. Its building was really a vast. Near about there were at least 8 colleges built by different patrons, including one by Balputra Deva, king of Sumatra. At the time of Balputra Deva, that was just established. According to Yunshang, the whole university area was enclosed by a brick wall. Brick wall used for the construction of Nalanda University. It was provided various facilities to the students for their studies. There were 3 great libraries. That libraries are called as Ratnasagar, Ratnodadi and Ratnaranjak. That 3 libraries given names like that. There were more than 10,000 students and more than 1,500 teachers were available in Nalanda University. They came from Korea, Mongolia, Japan, China, Tibet, Ceylon and various parts of India. The subjects of study at Nalanda University were all the 4 Vedas, logic, grammar, medicine, Sankhya means Sankhya Jnan, yoga, Nyaya and Buddhist works of different schools. Nalanda University was not an ordinary university. It was a postgraduate institution. Means nowadays we can just see the degree of masters. Those who are taking master's degree, that is called as post-graduation, to which admission was very difficult. Before admission, an examination was held in which hardly 20% students, whatever students, I think you have studied, you have saw the movie that is called as Super 30. In that also that teacher wanted to give admission only 30 students, so only that much only appointed those who were much most clever, only they selected for the education. Same way that system was just followed in what, in the Nalanda University, and rest were rejected. Only the most brilliant were admitted into the university. Means you can imagine that what type of mentality that students had. Nalanda continued to be a beacon of light up to 12th century. Nalanda University was worked up to the 12th century when it was destroyed by Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khilji. We will study about that Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khilji in the Delhi Sultanate. He was a general of Muhammad Ghori. Today only the remains of its magnificence and glory can be seen. Means we are not that much lucky because we could not see the original construction of Nalanda University. Only we can just see ruin of the Nalanda University.